We hope you enjoy listening to this weekly podcast from LifeLine Church. You can find out more and discover our other podcasts by searching for LifeLine Church, visiting lifelinechurch.co.uk, or by taking a look at our YouTube channel, LifeLine Church Dagenham.
Hello everyone. Morning. All right, prayer. Your Father knows what you need. So I want to start just by reading something from the Bible. I'm reading from Matthew chapter 6, verses 6 to 13. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. This then is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. So I want to talk about prayer today, and I'll be honest, I feel somewhat unqualified to speak on this subject. I struggle with prayer. I do pray, but I would not say that prayer plays the role in my life that I would like it to, and I'm not satisfied with that, but that's just where I'm at. And often I found myself over the years maybe complicating prayer a bit. I'd read books about prayer, many books actually, rather than just praying. And some of those books were long. I'd finish them and not really pray any more than I was before I read it. And I've heard prayer be described, and I related to this, maybe not everyone will, but I related to this, kind of described as like eating celery. We don't necessarily enjoy it, but we know that it's good for us. And if I'm honest, that is a little bit where I'm at. So like I said, in many ways I feel a little bit unprepared, unqualified to do this talk. And many in the room have been Christians for a long time, so I'm sure that passage that I've just read is quite familiar. Even people that aren't necessarily Christians will probably have heard of the Lord's Prayer. So I might not say anything particularly revolutionary or mind-blowing. I know I'm in a room with people that are some real prayer warriors, but I feel like God's given me something to share. He's given me something for me, and I think that it might be for some of us too. So, yeah. I can often trip myself up with thoughts, or read Bible verses and kind of be like, what's the goal of prayer? But God's just been reminding me to kind of take a step back and just think about what is the goal in general. And my ultimate goal is I want to be like Jesus. I want to know him and enjoy him more and more. And I want to keep falling deeper in love with who God is. And I don't really know how I expect that to happen if my communication with him is minimal at best. And also, as I'm sharing, I don't want to come across like, yes, prayer is something we ought to do, like it's just something else that we need to add to our schedule or our, mental well-being, health regime, whatever kind of way you see it. This is an invitation from God who loves us so much, who just wants to be in communication with us. So it's something we get to do, something I get to do, not something I ought to do. And there was a quote from Jon Marc Comer, which I really liked, which says, God is more of a friend than a formula. And I found that quite challenging because I've often approached prayer like it's some sort of formula that I need to get right. Like, okay, there's an issue I want to pray about. How many times do I pray about it? Who do I pray about it with? How long? Etc., etc. Like it's, like a formula that I've got to kind of perfect. But the goal isn't to kind of clock up hours, as it were. It's about enjoying his presence, the joy of being with him. And the Bible is full of stuff about prayer, full of prayers. But today I'm just kind of focus on things that Jesus said and things that we read about in Jesus' life in the Gospels when it comes to prayer particularly. And there's loads of different kind of aspects and elements of prayer, but I guess I'm focusing, kind of like I read in that first passage, on that sort of individual prayer, that go into the room, closing the door just to be with him. And one of the reasons I've struggled with prayer is this idea of like, it says in that passage, your Father knows what you need. So it's like, okay, if he knows what I need, why do I need to ask? I don't really get it. But Jesus says he knows what you need, and then he instructs us to pray. So it's kind of like he knows what you need, so ask. And I think two things that I really want to focus on why God is so interested in us speaking with him is about formation and it's about relationship. So formation. By formation, I'm talking about becoming like Jesus, where my thoughts, my dreams, my desires align with his. And if I want to be like Jesus, if I look at his life, he spent a lot of time in prayer. So Mark chapter 1, verse 35 to 38 says the following. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone is looking for you." Jesus replied, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so I can preach there also. That is why I have come." So he traveled throughout Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons. And in this short little excerpt, we see the depth and the importance of Jesus' personal relationship with God. So what's going on? We're literally at the beginning of the story of Jesus. This is Mark chapter 1. And everyone's looking for him. We're in an early stage, but his fame is spreading. He's already healed people. He's been casting out demons. Everyone is starting to want a piece of him. His celebrity, his fame is growing. He's got a lot to be getting on with as well. He kind of says, look, I'm here to go and preach everywhere. And that's what he goes on to do. So he's got a lot to be getting on with. Everyone wants a piece of him. He's already done these amazing things. And how does he respond? He responds by getting up early to pray. And I can often trick myself into thinking I'm too busy to pray. But I've kind of been seeing, as I've looked at Jesus' life, the busier he gets, the more he prays. Prayer is such a priority to Jesus because he just wants to be with his Father. So in this passage, he goes into this wilderness. It says solitary place, which can be translated to desert. So he literally goes apart from everyone and spends what we can imagine to be hours in prayer. Because everyone's clearly looking for him. So they're looking for a while. Suggests that he must have been gone for quite a while. So if Jesus, the Son of God, recognizes that the busier he gets, the more he needs to be in communication with his Father, how much more do we, as flawed, weak people, need that? And literally at this point in the story, Jesus is like standing at the doorstep of like changing the course of history, and he still thought prayer was too important to just kind of be squeezed out of his schedule. Nothing has a higher priority to him, not even changing the world forever. This is from Luke chapter 6. So this is a different gospel, a different retelling of the story of Jesus' life. And it's just a short excerpt that I'm going to read, verses 12 to 13. One of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them, who he also designated apostles. So the context of this story, it was a little bit long. I didn't want to read it all, but just before he goes out to the mountainside to pray all night, he heals a man who has a shriveled hand, brings the hand back to fullness. But he does this on the Sabbath, on the day of rest, which is a big no-no for the Pharisees, who are the religious leaders of the time. And the previous verse basically says that after Jesus healed this man, the Pharisees are so angry with him that he'd done this work, as it were, on the Sabbath day, that they're so furious that they start to discuss what they're going to do with him. Essentially, they start to hatch their plans of how they will get him killed. So directly after infuriating incredibly powerful people, and right before making what I guess is a pretty important decision in choosing his 12 disciples. So he's got all these followers with him. And at this point, after he prays all night, he chooses the 12. He spends the whole night in prayer. I kind of read it and I think, well, surely Jesus, who's literally healed a shriveled hand, doesn't need to spend the whole night in prayer. It seems him and God are already working quite closely, you know? Surely there's better ways to spend his time. Maybe he could have been escaping from the people that want to kill him. But it's prayer. That's his fuel. That's the thing that he goes to. It's of the utmost importance to him. He spends a long time doing it, which makes me think he enjoyed it. Just that experience of being with his Father. And there's a joy in prayer that I want to experience. And I think that God is inviting me and inviting all of us into. And while we don't know the content of these all-night prayer or this early morning prayer, we get a good idea of how he started. So when he's teaching his disciples to pray in Matthew 6 that I started with, his first instruction is to start with our Father. So I'm just going to be focusing now on relationship. And we see Jesus start like this in his own prayers. In Mark 14, when Jesus is praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, the first word that comes out of his mouth is Abba, Father. But it's more than just kind of it's a personal title, it's a personal signifier. Abba is more like daddy or papa or whatever word you might use to signify the personal relationship. And I was listening to something that Tim Keller said about this particular passage. And he said that by starting in this way, Jesus is showing that the essence of prayer is not give us this daily bread, which is part of the Lord's Prayer, the part of asking. That doesn't come first, though. First of all, it's about orientation. It's about searing the senses of the mind and the heart with the white-hot fact that in Christ, the cosmic Lord of the universe has become your Father. So in other words, Jesus begins prayer not by asking for things, but by focusing on who God is. And that's such an important part of prayer. It starts by reorienting ourselves, reminding our minds and our hearts of the incredible reality that through Jesus, the ruler of the whole universe is now our Father, our Dad. That's the beginning of prayer, the thing on which everything else is based. True fatherly love. And there's a saying that I'm slowly coming to understand as a parent, which is you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. And I only have one child, but I believe that's true. And it's something that I'm learning more and more every day. So this is Remy, my daughter, with the hat on. And that's her cousin, Sienna, her hero. And this is Lila and Sienna, her two cousins. They sort of roll like a bit of a pack. You might have seen them over here before. They're not as intimidating as they might look when they're all together. But these Remy and her two big cousins, she loves them. And these photos are taken from a couple of weeks ago. So my family were on holiday in Southwold. And I went down for the day. Took Remy for the day because I knew how much she'd love to see Sienna and Lila, how much she'd love being on the beach, etc., etc. And I took Ken Jarvis for the day, and it was a lovely day, but Remy is not a particular fan of being in the car, and Southwold with, roadworks and the big roundabout being shut, it was about a 2-hour, 20-minute journey there and a 2-hour, 20-minute journey back. So Ella had been telling me, you need to think about this, how are you going to do this, etc., etc. So I left nice and early, fine, got there, fine, which I thought was going to be the hard drive. And I thought, right, on the way back, we'll just leave at 7:30, she'll fall asleep in the car, I'll transfer her when I get home, all good. But it didn't really go like that. And about an hour and a half into the journey, she's just still screaming, shouting, and she has a lot of strong opinions on what songs I should play. But she also likes to play this really sort of twisted mind game where she'll say she wants a song, and then when I start playing it, she'll scream and be like, no! Not this one, but I know it is this one. And she was saying she wanted a song called Ring the Bells. I didn't know what it was. Found out a few days later it's Jingle Bells. And we haven't played her Jingle Bells, so I don't know where that came from. But anyway, the journey wasn't going well. I was having problems with the weight. Oh, it was terrible. So I'm trying to find these songs. She's screaming. I'm like, oh my gosh, she should be asleep. And Ken, bless him, he's just there, just looking ahead. Oh, he's such a great guy. But at some point I realized, right, I'm going to have to forget the songs. I'm going to need to sing. Like, this is what's going to need to happen. So I'm going through all the classics, Wind the Bobbin, Roly Poly, we're throwing some worship songs in there. Nothing's working, but I'm just singing my heart out. I'm just trying to get her to relax, to be happy. And at one point I sort of realized Ken's sitting next to me, and I was just like, oh, I'm actually feeling a bit embarrassed now. But then I was like, do you know what? The important thing is I want Remy to be at peace. Finally, I found a song she just gave up and she fell asleep and it was all good. But in that point, my love for Remy was the motivating thing. I'm so committed to her because I'm her dad. And if that's the case with me, a selfish, broken, imperfect human parent, how much more infinitely must God, who through Jesus has become our Father, passionately and lovingly be committed to you and me? That's what Jesus knows when he starts his prayer with Father, Dad. But Jesus also makes it clear that we can ask. While he says Father, he starts with that. He asks. So I'm just going to read the passage I was talking about in the Garden of Gethsemane. Mark 14, verses 32 to 36. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James, and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," he said to them. "Stay here and keep watch." Going a little farther, he fell to the ground and prayed that, if possible, the hour might pass from him. "Abba, Father," he said, "everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." So asking is so essential to relationship. It insists on vulnerability. Because when you ask anyone for anything, you risk rejection or at least kind of disappointment. And until we ask God for something, he can't disappoint or surprise us. And we can't build trust with God without asking. We can't relate to God if we never ask. It's the means by which the relationship with God that he designed us to enjoy. And part of why I've struggled to pray is I've seemingly seen some of my prayers go unanswered. And then because that's happened, it's kind of lowered my expectation of praying in the future. But I've been reminded that we're encouraged to do it. We saw Jesus do it. He says, "Take this cup of suffering from me." So context for those that might not know. This is right before Jesus is about to be crucified. And he knows what's going to happen. So he's praying, he's calling out to God, and he's saying, "God, I don't want to go through this." He says, "Take this cup of suffering." He's basically talking about, take what is coming to me away. Don't let me go through the suffering that I'm about to go through. But he doesn't finish there. He says, "Yet not what I will, but what you will," which takes us back to that original Lord's Prayer that I read at the beginning about your will be done. Prayer gives us the opportunity to align with God, presenting our will, but then opening up the opportunity for his will to actually influence our will and become what we want. Jesus knows that he can ask for what he wants, but he also knows that God's will is better and more important than what he wants. And sometimes we can come to God in prayer for something and end up getting something that we didn't ask for. Maybe our prayer is answered, maybe it's not, but we get so much more. So I just want to... the last little passage I'm going to read. This is from Mark chapter 2, verses 1 to 5. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. They gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door, and he preached the word to them. Some men came, bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it, and then lowered the mat the man was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." So the paralyzed man goes to Jesus for physical healing, like he's literally paralyzed. But the first thing that Jesus says to him is that his sins are forgiven. He's given him something that he didn't even ask for initially. And by forgiving the paralyzed man, Jesus is saying, I'm giving you what you didn't think you needed because I love you, and I'm bringing you to a deeper healing. And I think it's a powerful story as it shows us that it's good to approach God with requests. That's what he told us to do. But if the goal is to become more like Jesus than for God just to fix all of my problems, then I can go with my request but remain aware that his will may be different to mine. But it could be more than I could ever even imagine or think to ask for. We see Jesus do it in the Garden of Gethsemane. He asks for the cup to be taken away, but he finishes by saying, but not what I want, but what you want to be done. And soon after that, he goes to the cross. He dies in excruciating pain, and he rises again. All so that we can know God as our Father, our Dad, and cry out to him for what's on our heart. God might answer our prayers in the way that we expect. He might not. He might wait. But I don't want my focus to be getting God to bend to my will, but rather my will becoming aligned with his. And that's the purpose of prayer. Putting ourselves into the heat so that we can become more malleable towards him. And the worst thing we can do is withdraw from him when we don't necessarily get the answers we want, because we don't allow for him to show us that there's so much more than we could even think to ask for. So in conclusion, I know I'm just scratching the surface of such a huge topic. But the things that have just been resting on me is just how much God loves us, how much he wants to be in communication with us, how much he wants to hear from us, and he wants us to be more like him. And he wants us to enjoy spending time in prayer, communing with him. He knows what's best for us, but the invitation is to ask him, so that as we're open about what's on our heart, that our desires can mold where they need to and become aligned with his. What an honor that we get to be with our Father, spend time with him in prayer. I'm asking God, Lord, I want that to be a reality for me. And I often find myself like, if I'm presented with an issue or there's something on my mind, something I'm worrying about, I'll think it through, figure it out, talk it over, try and see the situation from as many angles as possible, but forget to invite God in. But when we invite God in, it changes something in us. Maybe situations change, maybe they don't, but God is interested in changing us. There's still so much I don't know or understand, but I can't get away from it. It's an invitation that I really want to joyfully step into, and I think that he has that for us too. And while I've shared examples of Jesus praying for hours on end, I just want to encourage you to start where you are. I was walking somewhere the other day. It was probably not even a 10-minute walk, and it was one of those situations where I had a lot on my mind. There was responsibilities I need to sort out, stuff that needed to be planned. I was feeling quite overwhelmed, and I thought, let me just open it up to God. I just prayed. I asked him to change things, shared how I was feeling. I probably prayed for 5 minutes, but he met me in such a powerful way. He reminded me that he's with me, that I'm not alone. And that didn't deal with anything on my to-do list, but it suddenly realigned all those things on my to-do list and put them in their rightful place, and I was just able to crack on. But I really want to encourage us to start where we are. I've been reading this book, I like to read books on prayer, by Tyler Staton. It's called Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools. And he has loads of ways. It's all about prayer. It's a really, really good book. But he has all these kind of different practical suggestions for ways in which we can practice prayer and all these different elements. And there was one that I found kind of helpful that I've adapted a little bit, but I thought just to kind of close in response that I could lead us in. So if Jack would be all right just to come up and strum away. I'm going to kind of lead us in a prayer. No one needs to say anything out loud. You can, if that's helpful to you. You can close your eyes. You can do whatever. But I just want to kind of lead us in prayer. So I just want to encourage you just to start by recognizing who God is, like he invites us into. Father, Dad, whatever word might be best fitting for you. And I just want to encourage you just to talk to him about the little details of your life that you're sure he probably doesn't even care about. Talk to him about the ways that you might feel disappointed, maybe by him, maybe by other people. Talk to him about something that you're grateful for. Maybe a blessing in your life that you don't even feel like you deserve. Maybe talk to him if there's a worry on your mind or an anxiety that you're carrying. Think of something that might be in your life that maybe you're wrestling for control over. Maybe there's something that you've never quite released or given over to God. Or maybe you have given it to him in the past, but now you find yourself trying to grab it back. Tell God what that thing is. Give it to him. Ask him for something. Jesus encouraged us to ask, knowing that he knows what we need. Then ask him what he wants in your life, in the place you are, for his world. So Lord, I thank you that you invite us in to know you as our Father, as our Dad. Lord, you know what we need more than we could ever even imagine. But Lord, because you're our Dad, because you're our Father, you want to involve us. You want us to know you personally. Thank you that we can ask you for anything. Lord, I want you to place in me just such a desire to be with you, because where else can I go? Who else knows me and loves me like you do? And Lord, I ask for what you want to be done in my life, in our lives, in the places that you've placed us, in our community. Thank you for your love for us. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you for listening to this podcast by LifeLine Church. We hope this message has been an encouragement to you. We are a relational church who live to demonstrate God's love to one another and our surrounding community in real and practical ways. We believe that this love can restore our families, our friendships, our communities, and our nation. We'd love to connect further with you, so please visit our website, lifelinechurch.co.uk, or interact with us on Facebook at lifeline.church.uk.